This is my 6th country and my 4th continent. I started 2 nonprofits, 3 companies only in the US. So, I seem to be very professionally ADHD. Every day you contemplate, you learn, master a new skill, even if it's half an hour, and you move your body, and all these 3 things will massively help you engage. The try harder thing never works.
How do you define resilience, and how do you keep up with this and stand up and move on again and again?
There's the list of things that you don't know how to do is way more than the list of the things that you do know how to do. That information is not complicated. It's available and it's free. That's the beautiful thing. I want to start a coffee shop because I love coffee. That's not enough. Or I want to start a new software company because I can code well. That's not enough.
Welcome. This is an Hour of Innovation podcast. I'm your host, Lyoshin. Today's guest is Christian Ray Flores, an entrepreneur, investor, speaker, former pop star, and co-founder of Xponential Life and Third Drive. His journey spans continents and careers, from topping music charts to building startups and mentoring high achievers. Today we will explore inner mastery and how it fuels outer impact, the role of resistance in life and business, and how to build a personal brand with purpose and integrity. Welcome, Christian. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure.
Great. So before we go to specific topics, maybe if you want to say a couple of words of your background and the work that you're doing right now.
So I'm basically a very international person. I was both blessed and also forced to experience tons of cultures because I was born to a Russian mom, Chilean dad. I was born in Moscow. We moved to Chile. Then, because of some terrible things that happened, a military coup there, we were sort of forced to leave the country as exiles. And we ended up in Germany, then Russia, then Africa. I spent my childhood there. And then we came back to Russia when I was a teenager. And even then, I got my education in economics, but then went into the creative arts, into music, and had a decade-long career there. So it sort of started as a very eclectic life, and it essentially sort of shaped a very eclectic rest of the life as an adult. So we lived in Moscow and Kiev, Ukraine, and we moved around the U.S. a little bit. And this is my 6th country and my 4th continent. And what is it? I think my 3rd company and my second. I started 2 nonprofits, 3 companies only in the US.
Wow.
So, I seem to be very professionally ADHD. So I'm trying to fix that.
You keep yourself busy for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you worked across so many different fields like in music and mission and coaching and startups and all of that. So, and you're speaking a lot about inner mastery and things like that. So what is it? How do you define for yourself personally? What is inner mastery?
Well, I think for me, it's the foundation upon which you can build something, first of all, innovative, new, good for the world, that serves a lot of people, does a lot of good. And I think many people want that. And what they focus is on the tactics of doing the thing, right? Whatever it is, you're an engineer, a computer engineer, you are a startup guy, a tech guy, a musician, an artist. We focus on the craft, on the art, on the outer performance piece quite a bit because that's the thing that gets recognized quickly. What we tend to under-focus on is the inner mastery of how to not only elevate that, but also sustain that. And that's the thing that I emphasize, because you can actually get away and be quite successful for maybe 5 to 10 years when you get really good at something, without a lot of growth in your inner mastery, which is emotional self-regulation, how you deal with people, how you hire, fire, the friendships you have, how you build your marriage, for example, how you are with your children, how you are with money, how you are with ego, how you are with humility, how you are with things like rejection. All of those things are inner game things. And you can probably get away without maturing quite a bit for maybe 5-10 years, but then eventually the lack of inner mastery will catch up with you, and you'll either plateau or hit a wall. And you in your heart of hearts, you understand, okay, it's not that I am less of a professional on the outside. I think there's something lacking inside of me that I need to fix. And that's when people start going, okay, I need a therapist, I need a coach, that sort of thing. So I make it a very big deal. And even with coaching, I want to help people succeed professionally, but I basically say, look, I don't want to help you just tactically. I want to help you strategically. So you can become that person who creates this kind of change and sustains this kind of success.
So I guess people, when they progress through career or business, for example, the easiest example, I guess, is when they start making a lot of money, they may change, their attitudes change and things like that. So I guess what it means, from what I heard from you, is you keep yourself basically pretty much at the same level, and you're just going after your mission versus
I mean, even your ego, for example, right? Let's just take that example, because I think what you mentioned is connected to insecurity and pride and ego bundled up. Like, your insecurities are there when you're poor, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. But if you're insecure when you're rich, you start compensating for your insecurity by getting the flashiest car, getting the biggest house, and doing things that are really virtue signaling. They're compensating for something that's not there internally. And that happened to me. I remember I was a very popular artist in all of that former Soviet Union space. That was in my first career. And my inner insecurities immediately became evident to the outside world, right? Because I was clubbing, I was partying, I sort of tried to behave as I thought the outer world expected a pop star to behave. And none of it had anything to do actually with my preferences. It was just me trying to fit in,
I see.
That's an inner game flaw, right? Because you're not being authentic at all. You're just trying to play the role. You think the role is this, so you play that role. So let's say I'm imagining in Silicon Valley, there's this stereotypical startup guy, right? Hoodie wearing, like even the clothes that are imitated, the lifestyle that, people compete against each other in what kind of rounds they have of investment. Money is a thing, right? And you lose the track of the passion that drove you to do the thing that you do well. When you start playing in those stupid, foolish games. That's all inner mastery stuff, right? Your inner, you don't have, you might have outer mastery of, let's say, creating an app or creating a software or a business, but you do not have the inner mastery to sustain it, because now you're distracted by things that are completely sideways energy. They don't help you at all. They make you actually unhappy, So that's a great example, right?
I agree. Yes, it's like your environment or culture or subculture, whatever it is, forces you to behave in a certain way, and it distracts you in a way. So, are there any daily practices or just in general practices how to start building that inner mastery in yourself and become more authentic and to yourself?
Well, I think developing a sort of these routines and rhythms in life that allow you to think deeper about who you are, what do you want to be, what triggers you have. That's one. And because what happens is the more successful you are in whatever it is that you do, you will become more busy, right? So in all the things that you're building become they demand your attention, your creative energy, your emotional labor. So you forget about who you are in the mix of this thing, right? That draws you. You're riding this wave. So if you want to not be swept by this wave, what you do is you create a contemplative practice, for example. That's, I coach people, okay, every day we're going to do 3 things. We're going to contemplate. You can pray, meditate, journal, like anything that allows you to stop and think about where you are rather than be swept away by the urgent. You think about the important, not the urgent, right? We will move and exercise our bodies because that allows you to have more cognitive abilities. Actually, there's a direct correlation between physical activity and cognitive ability. Allows you to be more optimistic. It allows you to actually overcome obstacles better. So you have all kinds of advantages when it comes to building something new, because it will battle depression, anxiety, negativity when you move. And you have sort of a physical routine. And the third one is you master a new skill every day. And why? Because every one of us has things that are extraordinarily advantageous to us, and we have flat sides and blind spots that are disadvantageous. Right? Maybe you don't understand, you have a low relational IQ, right? Maybe you don't understand sales, right? You don't understand how to hire and fire somebody. You don't know how to build a team and motivate a team, the most talented people to stick around. All these things, and I can the list goes on and on and on and on. But basically, if you want to build something new, you have to learn new skills. And because you're so busy, you might not learn them. And because you're not learning them, you'll be sort of not advancing, right? Or actually decreasing your advancement, right? So every day you contemplate, you learn, master a new skill, even if it's half an hour, and you move your body, and all these three things will massively help you engage. And that's just part of it, like being around people who are the people you aspire to be, who are ahead of you in their inner mastery. That's a great thing to do, right? Yeah. Who are these people? Especially if you're leading a company, usually people really won't tell you the truth if you're their boss.
Right.
Okay, who are your peers? Are your peers maybe bringing you down, and you try to fit in with them, and you spend way more money and your time in ways that you don't want to spend? Or are these people going to elevate who you are? So your peer group, huge, right? Do you have a guide, a mentor, a coach, somebody who will watch over you and say, hey, you're missing this, you're missing that? So all those things together really make a big difference, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And then since you coach a lot of people, I have a question, like, do you see any patterns in people, like resistance or some sort of blocks that they have that you have to break through? What are the most common ones that you have to work with?
Well, I think resistance, the word resistance, it's a great word, because basically it's almost like in the physical world. When you apply pressure to a table, the table will resist, right? Your pressure. Yeah. It's the same thing. If you want to make progress, you want to create something new, a new product, a piece of art, a new chapter in your life, a new future, you will automatically elicit resistance. And it could be external from the outside world, because people, let's say, don't know who you are. You don't have a reputation yet, so they won't invest in you. People won't follow you because you can't pay them well, right? People won't believe in you because they don't know what you're capable of. And internal. Who do you think you are? It's sort of the famous self-doubt, right? Imposter syndrome. That's internal resistance. And sometimes it's complete. It's just primal, and all of us have it when our brain attacks us when we're doing something that feels dangerous, right? It's actually not dangerous in real life, but it feels dangerous.
Yeah.
So we'll stop and self-sabotage, and all of that stuff. But it could be something even deeper than that, rooted in some sort of childhood memory. It could be bullying, it could be an absent father, the dysfunctional family, things like that. Scarcity mindset, not growth mindset. So all of those things are resistance dimensions of the same thing. It's the force that is preventing you from reaching both your potential, helping more people, doing great things for us, right? So those are all very, very common. Everybody has them, and I mean everybody. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's just starting and someone who's managing billions of dollars. And I've seen people, I know, because I am invited into the inner lives of people so often, that it's wonderful to be able to know, it doesn't even matter how successful you are. These resistance visits everybody, and if you don't know how to defeat it effectively, I think you're going to definitely miss out on all kinds of opportunities in life.
Yeah. So the second part of this is outer mastery, right? And you're saying, or at least I get the message, is that starting with inner, your inner mastery is better in the long run, because you can live with outer for a while, but you still have to come back to the inner. So, what are some of the ways to kind of like motivate yourself, or maybe break through, or find that breaking point, like, okay, now I have to focus on inner mastery in order to proceed. I'm kind of wasting my life or doing something that distracts me.
I think just usually it expresses itself in emotional pain. Like inevitably, it's like, when there's something off with your body, you feel a physical pain, right? If something is off with your life, you'll definitely feel an emotional pain. It's just this, almost like this lack of clarity, lack of motivation. You're deflated, you're confused a little bit, and you're not even be used to being confused, and all of a sudden you're confused, and I'm like, this is not me, that sort of thing. So those are the outer signs of an inner, almost like misalignment. And that's when people start paying attention. And the smartest ones of us are people who feel it and then immediately spring into action and try and understand, okay, I need to fix an inner mastery problem rather than try to fix it without outer fixes, because outer fixes only fix outer problems, not inner problems. So if we have enough of a maturity and a presence of mind to say, okay, I need some help, I need a community, I need a guidance, I need a coach or a mentor, or all of the above, because I clearly don't have a clear picture, and I don't like wandering in the fog, right? Like this. And I see people resisting it and going, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to just try harder, right? The try harder thing never works. But I've also seen people who are so in tune with a misalignment that they go, okay, I need to fix that, because then even the misalignment itself makes you unhappy, and I don't want to function in that mode. And the smarter ones, they find humility, and they take a little bit of time to do some inner mastery work.
Yeah, I always like the phrase saying, like, focus on what you can control, and something that you can't control, it's pointless to focus on. And I think
that's right. Yeah,
I think it kind of matches. If you see that you lost, you can focus on yourself, fix yourself, kind of put together, and then move on to the next step.
And also that changes what you're referring to. It's a really good connection, because when you're in a misaligned place, you will have this illusion of limited resources. That usually scarcity mindset goes hand in hand with resistance. So you start saying things like, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough resources, if only had this, if only people would pay attention. So you're basically finding reasons outside of yourself, and you're looking in the wrong place. So you try harder to get the resources that you lack. What happens if you turn to inner mastery is that you start realizing that you actually have way more resources than you thought you did, and those inner resources now are more organized, more mobilized, more productized, even taken to a place where they offer an unfair advantage. And then other resources become available to you as people recognize, oh, this person has something special there.
Yeah, my personal experience with that is like, I can't play games on my phone, for example, because it's such a distraction. As soon as I start spending too much time on it, everything else falls apart, and I say, okay, that's it. Today I'm cutting my game time. Time to get back to work. So there's so many. So you also lived through, like you mentioned, political asylum and some hard times, and moving around, international moves from continent to continent, and also fame, reinvention yourself, all kind of things. How do you define resilience, and how do you keep up with this and stand up and move on again and again?
It's a great question. I think, and it's not, I think most of us want to find the answer to that question, because whether you grew up in extreme circumstances like the former Soviet Union or Africa or something like that, or even in a very stable place like America, very prosperous, where they're stable, you'll still find a lot of suffering, because suffering is a universal human thing, right? So the need for that is universal because of it, because you just can't escape suffering. And I would say that the way I view it is that if you start understanding how you were wired to be, you will find resilience, because you are biologically built as a organism that is anti-fragile, right? The word was coined by this guy, Nassim Taleb, in a book that is called Anti-Fragile. But basically the idea is that, for example, your physical body, how do you become faster, healthier, more flexible, stronger? You will actually create suffering for your body by going to the gym or running or training, right? But just enough to stress your body a little bit beyond the breaking point, just a little bit. That point where things start hurting and you micro tears in your muscles, that sort of thing. And then your body will respond by building itself up stronger. Basically, that's the mechanism. So we already know this about ourselves. And the cool thing is that it actually works exactly like that in everything: relationships, professional development, learning, etc. So that's why, for example, that element that when I say build a new skill, contemplate, and move, I try to batch those things, because all of those things are anti-fragile exercises, right?
I see.
So when you're contemplating, you're practicing transcending your own sort of normal state, right? You're out of yourself a little bit more than normal. You're not in this normal sort of, okay, here's my laundry list of things I need to do today. No, you're stepping out of yourself and you start thinking, where am I going? Who am I? What do I want to do with my life? That's anti-fragile. That builds resistance, because it stretches you just a little bit. And then the next day you'll do more, and you do it every single day. You change. With skills, it's the same thing, right? You can have, every person. I work with quite a few startup founders, right? And every startup founder that will say, hey, I have these 5 skills that are going to make me super successful, and my product or service is going to be amazingly helpful to the world, only to find out that you don't need the 5 skills, you need 30 skills. Like most startups fail because of that realization, right? I thought I'm gonna find $5 million and 10 million subscribers to my thing in 19 months, and I'm going to get the next round, and it's going to be incredible. And then I'm going to be, somebody's going to offer me to buy me out for $30 million, and then I'm going to live happily ever after. And then you get a little bit of a signal, right? Hey, there's an angel that gave you a little bit of money. You have a small team, and then you realize that you have to get along with people. You have to understand how to overcome fear. You have to understand how to market and how to sell. You understand, like, there's the list of things that you don't know how to do is way more than the list of the things that you do know how to do. And that's how startups fail, right? So, and you can change that by having a lifestyle that builds anti-fragility in you every single day. And that can completely change your life and make you very successful in whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how to, like, if you go to this situation and you're trying hard, everything seems to fall apart, and how do you build yourself up from that and realize that? So that's also kind of
exactly. But so for example, let's say, and it's the thing is, the answer is not sexy, right? Because there's not a magic pill. But what you're doing by doing that first hour of learning a new skill, move your body, contemplate, is you're learning how to go from anxious to creative and joyful and clear. And you're learning it in micro doses, right? Every single day. And what happens is, over time, what you'll see is what upset you and completely set you off, and you couldn't be productive all day long, like 6 months ago, doesn't even bother you anymore. So it's very incremental. And then when the big things happen, where somebody is said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million, and then they change their minds, and you don't even know what you do with yourself. 6 months ago, you would have folded and given up. Today, you go, oh, that's fine. There's plenty of money out there. I'm going to go find somebody else who's going to fix this problem, right? So it's not sexy. It's just incremental, right? And if you just develop the discipline and the character, that's why I say inner mastery, right? That inner mastery is going to pay off in very specific outer impact ways. Very, very specific.
Yeah, it's very similar how we build in muscles, like it was physical, right? You just have to try. You just have to, like they say, like don't be afraid to receive no. If you go ask like 100 people to sign up to your service and all of them say no, like cold calls, for example. Like when you go through sales training, they actually teach you to fail many times. So then you're not afraid to fail, and you just go and,
that's exactly
and achieve stuff. So
so you start dealing with rejection much better, failure. And the thing is, if you want to build anything new in life, you could be a tech startup person or an artist, or a new business owner. You are literally asking for trouble. Like that's what you're doing, because you're creating chaos before order even comes. So if you don't have the inner capacity to deal with that, don't even start the startup, because it's not gonna go well for you. You know. And people do those things just because they say, I want to start a coffee shop because I love coffee. That's not enough. Or I want to start a new software company because I can code well. That's not enough. It's just not enough. You know.
Yeah, I think most startups owners, if they're technical, they quickly realize that sales and marketing are way more important than just writing code.
I mean, part of my business on the marketing side was built on helping people that are so much smarter than me technically, who have zero understanding of aesthetics and messaging and the psychology of consumers. You know, when they're like, I don't understand why people are not buying my thing. It's amazing, right? I go, well, because you can't explain it very well, you know. So you need those skills, right? So that's the thing. Is everybody needs a little bit. Even if you are not going to be a marketer, you need to develop the skills of marketing to the degree where at least you know who to hire and who to not hire. You know, so you need to know about sales, even though you're not going to be maybe doing the sales calls. But you need to know enough about sales and the psychology of sales to know who to partner with, who to subcontract with, or who to hire. And that's true about every aspect of the business. So if you're a founder of anything, you might come in with 5 skills, but you need 30.
Right.
And what are you going to do if you don't find those skills? If you don't have them, you're going to panic. You're going to not know what to do, and then you're going to blame whatever, the investor, your coworkers, the client, the market. But if you develop those skills that I was telling you about, and you have this consistent, small, gradual movement towards developing the skills and the ability to see the world as it is, you can be very successful.
So it seems like people have to build some sort of system for themselves, how to reflect, how to physically move, right? How to build those skills. Do you have any advice, I guess, or some playbook maybe, how to build that system?
Well, I mean, the thing is, that information is not complicated. It's available and it's free. That's the beautiful thing. So if you have the foresight and almost like the drive to be able to just pick a system and lean into it, and becomes from a routine to an actual habit that you don't have to think about it. This is just how you are. It changes who you are. Then you can do that. Most people honestly would do much better and accelerate with this when they have guidance and coaching in a community of people who already practice this. So if you're immersed, if you're around people who none of them even understand how that works, versus being around people where everybody understands how that works, you'll immediately start upgrading your game, right? Because you have accountability, you have a baseline that is very different, and you have some guidance.
I see. I guess that's why people, and including myself, are always looking for some sort of mini communities of people who do something similar to what I'm trying to do. And try to share knowledge with them and say,
totally.
I tried this. What did you guys think about that?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, that
And I
makes
think
sense.
we as human beings were tribal, right? So we can down regulate with people that are as let's say unskillful as us in a particular area. But once we're in the middle of a group that is more skillful than us in a particular area, we start upregulating. We go, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to be left behind here. I'm going to be the guy who figures it out, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's sort of very, very, very natural to human beings to upgrade very almost automatically, seamlessly, when they're around people who are focused a certain way.
Right. Yeah. And then, so I guess once somebody figures it out and it helps them to improve, how can they propagate this down to their teams? Maybe the company starts growing and they need to kind of mentor their people and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think that is then how do you translate the things that have worked for you into a cultural baseline?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's where this idea of developing a personal brand becomes a very valuable idea. Because there's all kinds of misunderstanding of what that even means, right? Like, okay, some people might go, well, it's sort of this ego thing. I don't want to be an influencer. I'm a serious professional, that kind of thing. But it's not a superficial actually thing. What basically a personal brand is your reputation multiplied and known by people. You are known for this, right? And to do that, what you do is you must find at least some time and bandwidth and investment of time and energy into recording and sharing your intellectual property, your abilities, codifying your abilities, productizing your abilities into something that can be passed by and consumed by others, right? So if you spend 5 years growing how to code, how to do all kinds of things, and you're a successful startup founder, and if you can't point me to a place where, let's say, a 20-year-old who comes in can't, in a very systematic, structured way, learn from what you've learned, then you're underperforming, in my opinion. Because you don't have a personal brand. And that could be, a personal brand could be just, I have a personal brand inside my organization. People know how I think. And they understand the corporate culture that we're developing here. And that's as valuable as the product we're developing. It could be as small as that, very small.
Yeah.
But even better if you develop a personal brand that transcends your company and your circles, right? Where other people start thinking of you as a thought leader who knows how to build this particular thing, this particular way. And the benefits of that are this list of benefits. And that really helps you with all kinds of things downstream, right? It's basically your reputation scaled. And for that, you have to sort of figure out you have to invest in at least one medium that scales your reputation, and scales your insights as a thought leader. So it could be a newsletter or a podcast or a YouTube channel, all of the above, a combination of those things, something else that you develop. It could be tweets, and we know people who became incredible thought leaders through tweets, just tweets, nothing else,
Right.
So the mediums are very different, but the underlying idea is the same. Is what is the medium that you can invest in that allows you to take the treasure of your expertise, of your insights, your mastery, and productize it so that others can benefit from it. And that the personal brand development is a huge advantage, because the advantage could be, I can list you 1,000 things, right? Some people will buy from you just because of your personal brand.
Yeah.
Like people buy a Tesla because of Elon.
Right.
Like straight up, just because of that. Right? More people buy from Tesla. Other people don't buy from Tesla because of Elon. We know that, true, right? But that's a personal brand. Like, okay, there's a downside if you do certain things and prioritize other things.
Right.
But it's investments, same thing. Partnerships. Your ability to transcend your natural sort of environment is unlimited if you understand how to develop a personal brand. And I'm a huge believer in that. And I've lived through a decade of life where my personal brand exploded, and I saw the benefits just are everywhere. And then because it was sort of natural for me I spent the next decade being completely invisible
Mm.
and didn't even realize that I should have at least learned something from literally my own expertise, my own experience. And I spent a decade invisible with all the downsides of not having a personal brand anymore. When I moved to the States, for example. Then eventually I'm like, wait a minute, I know how to do this and I haven't done it. That's just dumb, right? So now, of course, I have a personal brand. I have a newsletter. I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast. I go on yours. That's part of my effort to just say, hey, here's what I have. I hope this is valuable. And then I teach others in my program. That's like a core pillar on the coaching program is how do you develop inner mastery? That's called that fuel. How do you find that edge, the thing that's uniquely yours, that makes you uniquely valuable? And then how that can be infused into a personal brand that's scalable and other people will benefit from.
Yeah. So, and I think this, what I got from this is personal brand starts really with your small inner circle, if you will, defining what you can be good at. For example, job. For most people, it will be their job, right? And then if they go a little bit further than that, outside of the organization, they start going to communities online. It will grow, and that's how they can end up with reputation and become a thought leader. And we've seen this people like on LinkedIn. I follow a bunch of people who are like that, and it's funny that sometimes I do this trick. I find somebody or company, for example. I find the company and then I go to their profiles and I scroll all the way down to their first post on social media, and they're crazy simple, crazy stupid. Nothing is impressive about them. And then okay, this person was just like me. Or like this guy was just like this guy. So then you realize everybody the same. Everybody pretty much start at the same level.
That's exactly. And also that no one starts good at the personal brand.
Trial and error, yes.
Exactly. So everybody starts at something that's actually very unimpressive. But then if you believe in why this is valuable, eventually you figure it out.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about mistakes, and maybe people just don't know how to do it, or maybe they're afraid to do it, and they keep making these mistakes and it doesn't work and they give up. How can they fix that?
And I'm assuming what you're saying is, okay, how do you acknowledge mistakes and get over them, or how do you maybe lose the fear of making those mistakes? Is that correct?
We could go both, yes.
So I think for me, it's, again, I keep going back to inner mastery, right? The reason why we're afraid to make mistakes is because we of fear of, it's not even fear of failure, actually. If you take it one level down, it's fear of rejection. It's the fear of rejection of our tribe, our immediate circles. It's a very primal fear. So, and it's universal. Everybody has it. I have it. All of that. If you work on that inner mastery piece, that's where those things are calibrated, because you start understanding that the rejection, the danger of rejection is completely out of proportion of actual reality, right? Of course they're not going to reject you. People who love you, they're not going to reject you, right? Unless you do something so stupid, right? Which you're not even doing in the first place. By creating a video or writing a book. Like, think about it, right? Who's going to reject you for doing something that is supposed to help people in one way or another?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the people who care about you, they will applaud you, even if your first effort is a failure. They will say, you'll get it next time. The people most people won't even care, like zero care. They literally don't care. They don't know you exist. Okay. So, and there's, if you do something public, like on social media or YouTube video, whatever, okay, you'll find a snarky, comment here and there, which people have zero importance to your life, complete zero importance. And you'll pay attention to one idiotic comment or note, and then you ruminate over those things because it's so primal. So that's why the inner mastery is such an important piece, because if you are deeply rooted in who you are, what your purpose is in life, if you're secure in your relationships, you build those well. And we focus on marriage, on family, on friendships, on inner circles, on all kinds of nuances like that. So you build a profound, almost like a backbone, where the fear of rejection by a tribe is not even on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you create with zero fear, right? And you will definitely not self-sabotage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then even if you fail, you celebrate the failure, you move on. So people think, okay, fail forward, fail fast, whatever. All those things are all almost like slogans that fly around
Mm-hmm.
the business
Yeah.
world. And what people miss, I think, is that just because I heard it and it sounds right, it's not going to make me actually feel that way.
Right. Yeah.
That's where the inner game, the inner mastery piece, as a slow, unsexy, gradual strengthening from the inside is so important, because everybody can. I mean, I can ask ChatGPT for 15 quotes about failing, and that's not going to help me how I feel. I need the skills. I need the inner mastery to be able to actually live out what those quotes actually say.
Yeah.
So it's not, hype doesn't help you, basically. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right. I think most people read about this and they still never do it. And I'm guilty of that too. I read many books and I never implemented a single thing from them. Just put them back on the shelf and forgot about them.
Yeah, I mean, we're all like that. So do the work. Give yourself, lean in and say, I'm going to not stop until this, and this happens within me.
Yeah.
And then the outer success is natural. It's inevitable, basically. You can become an inevitable success.
I guess starting small also helps, right? Like making that first post on social media, it's virtually nothing. Most people will not even notice anything except for a few people that follow you. And
exactly.
That kind of will build that muscle. I don't know.
It's first video. I know a lot of really good YouTubers. What I respect about them is that they reinforce that by saying, on my channel, you can go all the way back to the beginning. I didn't delete those terrible videos. And the reason is because I want everyone to know this is how things like that start. And I think that's a wonderful, security, to have, to say, you can go back and see exactly how much I sucked, and that's wonderful, I think.
That's very interesting, because I actually read an article before I started my podcast, and the guy was saying, actually giving a few examples of famous podcasters, how they recorded their first episode, how they were reading something from the paper, how they were all red and shy, and how they didn't know how to say things and things
that's
like
right,
that. And that's very funny to see that. And now they're stars, basically.
Exactly. And I think it's a great thing to not even delete those things, because you need to remind yourself this is where you started, and everybody starts somewhere.
So if there was some piece of advice when you were just starting rebuilding your personal brand again, what do you want that advice to be? So for somebody who's listening right now, so they can take it.
I would say pick a medium and be consistent. That's it. Pick one thing. Like, it could be LinkedIn. I love Substack. I love newsletters. That's sort of my new passion. But I also love YouTube. Those are my two favorite ones. Everything else is like, we repost shorts and things like that if somebody else do it for me. But my main focus is the written word. So I love newsletters for that. And I like doing this, what I'm doing with you now. It's we're not in the same place, but it is face to face, and it's an organic, natural conversation. It sparks unexpected questions and answers, and it's really, really wonderful. So my platforms are YouTube, specifically long form, and Substack. Pick one, if not two, right? If you don't have to do two, and then, but be very consistent. Learn something every time, and just don't stop. Most people, I think the stats are there's millions and millions of podcasts out there, and most people don't make it past 2-3 episodes,
Right.
So they just stop.
It's mind-blowing, like how you not go further than 2-3 people. Like, I think when I was starting, I had like 7 or 8 people in advance booked already. So I couldn't stop. I had to go and have those introductions and have those conversations recorded. I set up myself for not failure, basically.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
So I had to keep up.
Consistency is everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It actually it hit my brain after like 10th or 15th episode. Like, if I stop now, I will look more stupid than if I continue. Like, why did you start at the first? Like, you wasted all this time and effort and bothered all these people.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you stop. It's stupid.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. Okay. So we're coming to an end. At the very end, I wanted to ask you if you have any sort of advice in general to people, or maybe something I didn't ask you and you wanted to share with audience. If you can speak to that a little bit.
One of my favorite things that I try to say to people is, because it deals with this very primal desire to fit in, right? Mm-hmm. That we all have, and we all battle through these things, is that because we want to fit in, unless we have some inner mastery work and we understand something beyond our natural state, we will always aim for the middle. I'm going to be this kind of, and some of it is very subconscious. You aim for the middle. I'm going to be this kind of engineer. There's an up sort of margin and a low margin, but I'm going to be right there in the middle. It's a safe place. And it's very primal and it's very subconscious, and we do it all the time. We don't try to do something outrageous because it's scary. It feels scary, dangerous. And what I try to say to people is that if you aim for the middle, that's literally the most risky thing you can possibly do, because the middle is crowded, because everybody's aiming for the middle. Yeah. Find the courage, do the work, and try to aim higher than the middle. Take some risks, because that's where it's not crowded. So it's surprisingly easier to be successful on a higher level of whatever it is that you do than it is in an average level. Surprisingly easier. And of course, the benefits are much better. All kinds of benefits. Yeah,
that's very interesting. I never thought about it like this. And I hope many people take it as an action.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. That's great. Okay. All right, Christian. Thank you very much for your time. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, Vitaly.